Hey, welcome everybody back to the Dusty Wheel for another What Wednesday event. You've joined us for our live call-in talk show all about the books and the television series. And before we bring our panelists in, before we dig into live adaptation, I want to tell you a little bit about what's about to happen for the next couple weeks around here. This Sunday, we're going to bring in some of the licensed Wheel of Time artists and creators and do kind of an afternoon chat with them all about their experiences. We know some of our viewers out in England and other parts of the world have wanted to see some of our stuff live. So we thought we'd do that Sunday afternoon and actually give a chance for fans to talk to some of these creators about what they've done. I know a lot of you have bought their products. You've worn their t-shirts like this one from Taglieri Tees. And so hopefully you have a chance to talk to them and hear what they have to say about their, about this moment, because if you don't know, they're losing the ability to kind of sell those products here. I think next Monday is the last day. So they'll be with us on Sunday. We'll put stuff up about that. We'll advertise about it here after the show. And then the following Wednesday, we're going to take a break from our live adaptations. And on that What Wednesday, we're going to talk all about The Forsaken. We're going to do a little special Halloween edition. And in essence, pick the biggest, baddest ghoul of them all. And that's going to be a lot of fun live with our panel. And then the following Sunday, we're going to bring in a well-known podcast and interview them. I'll leave that to be a little bit mystery for next week. And so I can't wait. Yeah, these next 2 weeks are going to be a lot of fun because the following Wednesday, we get another Amazon announcement. We're going to bring in dragonmount.com to be part of that panel with us. So that's the next 2 weeks. We can't wait for it. But you're all here to discuss the books. We're getting to the end of The Eye of the World. We're going to continue our live adaptation. And we'll try not to rile the entire chat room this time. Although,
No,
just so you know, I can see your comments this time. We set up a screen. I have a better view into what you're saying. I don't know if that's a great idea, but I hope so. It'll be fun to try to interact with you while we're doing the show. So without further ado, let's bring in our panelists. Today, we have with us not only Mary, Todd, and Tal, but we have a special guest panelist today, Linda Taglieri. Hey, Linda, welcome to the Dusty
Hi.
Wheel.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't know Linda, this is like a meeting of the innkeepers for us
Yeah, that's
in
true.
the books, right? Linda, I've known for a very long time. She's of 13th Depository fame, in my opinion. She's going to bring a different kind of quality to our discussion today, I think.
An intelligent one.
Exactly. So without further ado, if you recall where we're at, Rand has left the palace, and this is the moment where we're going back to the Queen's blessing, and so this is kind of a key moment in the actual books, because this is when they all come back together. So this moment when Rand sees everyone is kind of a key scene for me. I mean, to the panel here, Todd, do you hope we see this moment where they have this mini reunion?
Yes, but I don't think that's the most important thing really that happens.
What do you think the most important thing that happens there is?
I think right before all that goes on, when Gil runs off the White Cloaks, I think that they need to show that first before the rest of it, because that kind of establishes Gil as somebody who's willing to take up for the people that he cares about.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good piece. I really hope that he's definitely in the show, and he definitely features really heavily in this spot. So yeah, I like that thought of actually including the White Cloaks here. It does kind of create some. I mean, it's not the only thing here that creates kind of an imminent need to move on, but it's certainly one of those pieces. And then obviously the key moment here is not just the reunion, but this is the moment where Moraine first sees Matt.
Yes.
Right here, Mary, we have this recognition on Moraine's part, and finally the viewer is going to get this kind of window into what's happening to Matt. From a development of the plot standpoint, we're keeping Shatter Logoth so far in our live adaptation. How important is this moment from a on scene that we get a feel for just what's been happening to him?
I think it's a
good point in the story to show how far he's succumbed to the sickness of Shadar Logoth. And it's also an opportunity for us to see, to expand on Moraine's ability to use the power to get done what needs to get done.
Yeah, I like the idea she's going to come across here. Like, this is something, the big bad evil. Matt's all curled up. He's all, super paranoid at this point. And it's interesting. And I do hope that I hope maybe in the show that we don't see how the depths of it until this moment, I guess, for me. Like, I want it to really be from almost Rand's point of view, where he just is missing it. And maybe the viewer's missing just what's wrong with, it's been maybe more subtle, but in this moment, it kind of reveals itself as far as just how deep and dark Matt's gone.
And it also is an opportunity to, depending on how they play it in the books, we see it as, he is descending into, this kind of mental wasting sickness. He's getting more paranoid. He's getting less trusting. He's, sinking into himself, but we don't know why. We see the dagger and we know, through exposition that the dagger is bad, but we don't know how bad. We just see this happening. And the intelligent viewer is going to be able to put 2 and 2 together, but Moiraine reacting to it will really drive home the point. Yeah. And it's a good opportunity to, again, show the power and how it can be used.
Yeah.
I'm going to hop in here. I think there's something to be said for Moiraine being scared. And her reaction, because she hasn't reacted to anything else, really, is exceedingly significant. It's one of the key memories I had when I was rereading this section. It was like, oh yeah, for me.
Yeah, no, that piece. One of the commenters in the chat, Miss Sarah James, mentioned the holes in Matt's memory. I mean, that'll be an interesting kind of piece of this from what they're going to establish that this has done to him. Right, hopefully we're going to get more of those. That recognition, right? That there's been this huge amount of things happening with him that has been unknown to us. What else is happening here, Linda? What do you feel about this part? What's an important part of the development of the overall plot between? We have this reunion. They're all here. They're all excited about it. We have this Moiraine healing Matt section of this. What's key for you in this part of the plot?
Okay. They've all changed, and the 3 are all showing different signs of things that would normally be considered a mental illness. And what's more, Moiraine can't cure any of it. So Rand has started to channel. He's had some episodes of channeling sickness. Matt's being slowly poisoned, if you like. In fact, he's showing more signs of illness than Rand is, even though he's always mocked or criticized. He's hated channeling, and here he is with his own nasty and infectious, what's more, illness. So he's, in a way, just as dangerous as Rand. And Perrin has already started, he's well on the way to becoming a wolf brother. So, and Moraine's not sure if that's good or bad. So she's uncertain. She can barely control what's happening. It's very interesting character development. It's a good place to take stock of how much things have already moved.
I love that. Yeah, no, you bring up the part. I hadn't thought about the fact that Moiraine can't solve these problems. And, you know what I mean? Like, these issues. All of a sudden, this is, she can only mitigate some of the stuff that's happening to Matt. And she certainly can't, I mean, she can't do anything for Perrin, right? In that way. So, I love that you brought that up. And there's also this piece that Land claims that the Trollocs and Fades are surrounding the city. I'm really hoping that we get more of that reveal in the show, right? That's something you're in the books and you're reading it and you're like, hey, people are talking about there's things happening. But it's not like we get kind of this overall view of that from the outside of the city. So I'm really hoping that they kind of up that, that pressure and that stress kind of visually.
So a couple of things. One, I really feel like we need to keep the White Cloak component in this section, if only because it speaks to the disparity of the feelings of the people versus the feelings of the outside White Cloaks and sort of the animosity that the White Cloaks have for the matrilineal kingdom of Camelin, and the significance sort of that channelers have played in their history. So I think it's a nice bit of business, and it could be really cinematic to sort of hear all the chairs scraping and see everybody get up silently and have Lamgwin just petting a cat. It could
all
be
in
great.
defense of the queen,
right?
Right.
I think it's a nice bit of cinematic business. The character development of the boys, Linda, you talked about this, and I think it's really important. It's the first time the three of them have been back together in weeks. And they're all way more different. They're way different than they were when they left each other. Perrin, I think, physically is the most different. His body language is entirely different. His eyes look different. He's not talking. Like, he used to be taciturn, but now he's like silent. And Rand clocks it. And he wonders sort of about the differences that people are seeing in him, which is nice. And I did wonder about Matt's perception. I think my notes strayed towards more Theoryland than TV, but I did sort of wonder whether Matt actually saw something in Perrin, or whether, because he's not normally that perceptive.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
He's suspicious of everything. It's that paranoia that shows that's his mental illness, if you like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, if you notice, it almost seemed like Matt had kind of super, he had extra knowledge here that Matt would not have picked up elsewhere. And so it does make you wonder, and hopefully they kind of key in on that, where the viewer kind of like, how would Matt know? And how would he have this information? And it kind of leaves that mystery a bit about this evil that's in Shadow Logoth that he's become infected by. And hopefully that I want to see that kind of fear. So much so that, Moraine's pushing everybody back, and she's just like, what's been infected, right? It's not just,
she hisses.
And that's one of the things I latched onto it when I was rereading right now, is that Moraine never questions Rand in all that time he was around Matt. So it almost makes me wonder if she already knows that he's semi-protected from the taint.
Rereading it, it felt a little the same, honestly, Todd, but I can't tell if I'm adding information retroactively. Now, to your point, Matt, about the Trollocs and sort of the urgency to get out of the city, but the reason for them not being able to travel overland, and why they have to take the ways, that's the mechanism, right? Like, that's the reason for taking the ways, is because the Trollocs and the Murdral are outside. But at the same time, it's kind of overkill. Like, we've got the White Cloaks in the city. We've got the beggar who we know to be Fane is tracking Rand. We have to stay away from Elida and the Reds. We have to stay under the radar. Like, I don't know that we need all of it. So I'm hoping one or two components of that get dropped.
Yeah. Go ahead, Linda. Yeah.
I was just going to say, this is also where the red and the blue animosity is revealed for the first time. I'm just writing up a whole heap of notes I've taken on the Aes Sedai from Jordan's stuff. So that really is current in my mind for obvious reasons. I've spent weeks on looking at Aes Sedai customs and laws and history. So this is where it really first is mentioned. Not too much, because Moraine doesn't really want to say, I could be in trouble from this woman, but that is definitely a real risk. It's not till some books later that you really understand that. So it's not.
No, it's total subtext.
Yeah, that's right.
Because Gil is like,
and
wouldn't
she's
you like
actually
to be
got a
in the
man
palace?
who can channel under her. Right, with her under her belt. So,
that's true. I mean, when you think about it, right? The Red are there, and then Moraine.
Yeah, that's
she knows she has him, right? She knows, and not only that, right? She knows that here's Matt and the evil of Shadow Logoth, right? Her recognition, her awareness of it, like this could give them away.
The political capital that Elida can get out of all that is phenomenal.
Yeah, exactly. But Tal, you brought up an interesting point, which is there's so much going on here.
Yeah.
That's true. I guess it would be nice to. They don't have to do a lot on it with the Trollocs and the Fades and such, but they can do some to kind of, where it's not just the White Cloaks because Moraine. It's not just that they're surrounding the city. It's that Moraine here, right? When they come down out, she heals Matt somewhat, and then they start talking. Right. This is when it kind of all just comes out. Like we heard the story, and I had this dream, and all these pieces of the story about the Eye of the World. That all shows up, and Moraine in that moment goes, like, we've got to get up there now. Like, there's no time. So I think it's less that there's Trollocs and Fades outside and more.
I'd like to speak to that, Matt.
Yeah, go for it.
So that's this part in the book. So everything else, all of this has been one giant chase scene. This entire book is them running from everything. And that's one of the major themes. It's the White Cloaks, it's the Trollocs, it's the Fades, it's the politics, it's Aleda, it's everything is Fane. We're keeping Fane. And it's all coming to a head in Canelan, and then they disappear. And even when they disappear, they smashed Black. But even when they do that, they're still on the run from Machin Shin. They're still running once they get to the Blight. They're still running until they get to the Eye. I'd almost argue you can skip Fal Dara if you need to cut stuff.
What?
You're building all of this tension, all of this running to get to the MacGuffin of the world. I mean, the Eye of the World, and you've got to, you got to get there. You don't want to break the you don't want to break that momentum. You just got to go.
Okay, I want to point this out. I mean, last week, I don't want to bring this up, but it's a tender subject for everyone that's watching. When you guys, I don't count myself in this group, when you guys cut Loyal, that was that was upsetting. That was upsetting. And now you're suggesting that they cut the sequence to go to Fal Dara?
No, I'm saying they skip it. They leave the ways in the Blight. Step out in the Blight.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, you got me. You've pulled me back from the brink of insanity here. Okay, so why don't we do this? They've come down. They're talking about the sequence. I don't necessarily want to, if we rush through it. If anyone here, if anyone here on the panel wants to talk about the sequence where, in essence, Moraine makes this last minute wait, we're going through the ways, and Loyal, who in our live adaptation isn't there, we can get through the ways and we know where it's at, right? I know you have to ask yourself, does he need to come back? And
I'm on the fence.
You're on the fence.
I don't think I cut him.
What? I don't know that I did.
You did. We all did, except for Matt.
Okay, really quick. This happened before. Everyone that's watching, you might have seen this in episode 2. As the Dark One, I get to retcon whatever I want to retcon. So we're going to run through it really quick. Linda Taglieri, do you want Loyal to be in our live adaptation?
No. Not
Wait, hold
want.
on. Do you believe he should be in the television series live adaptation?
At this point.
Oh, at this point.
Yeah, at this point. Do we need Loyal?
I'd like to know who's going to read the Oja script. I gather we aren't having Oja script otherwise in the ways.
This suggests
that logic.
I think
yes. That's his purpose.
Maureen.
Are you saying yes or no? Do we need Loyal?
If we don't have him, we have to redesign the way the ways operates.
Okay, so is that a yes or no? I'm going for a yes. I'm a yes.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm trying. Yeah.
Todd, did I hear a yes?
I'm pretty sure you were a no.
Okay, I feel like Loyal's back in. Okay, Loyal's back in.
Okay,
all right,
Loyal's
let's move on.
back
All right, we're moving back on. Loyal's back in. Retcon, Balefire, done. He's back in.
Then if we're keeping Loyal in, then we need to hear him moan in terror and utter dejection.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to see the map
proposing the ways, because the moan is my favorite.
Yes.
Nice moan there. That was good. So we're on our way to the ways. Is there anybody that needs to talk through? Is there something that happens here that you think is important?
No, you need to pause.
You want me to pause ahead? Here? I am speeding ahead. I want to get to the ways. Okay, so what here, Tal, that you sound pretty sure that you care about this moment where they all come down to the library. In specific, is there something from a development standpoint that you want to see here happen before they make their journey to the ways?
Well, it's less about the library and more about the dream that they have before they go into the ways.
Okay, speak to that.
Because this is the first dream that we see the figures with their avatars. So the figure with the wolf, the figure with the dagger, the figure with the sword, and Matt touches it and wakes up and says he knows who I am. He knows which one is me. And so I don't know that we need that component of it, but this particular dream where it's highlighted for us, these are the three guys, these are what sets them apart from each other. Which one do I want?
I love
I know I was a big advocate for getting rid of the dreams earlier, but I think that this is one of the dreams that we need to
This
see.
might be the only one we need to keep because this is the dream that we get all the false dragons. And this is the first time we get the possibility that the Aes Sedai had something to do with the false dragons.
And he calls out Logain.
Yes. And that's how he puts the pictures, like that's how he puts the pieces together, is Logain's name at the end, because he doesn't recognize the other ones.
Yeah, I like this.
Anyways.
Piece. Yeah. No, it's good. It's good that you brought this up because I love the figurine side. And it also adds kind of this imminent nature of what they need to do, right? He's discovered who they are, right? Something's changed now in the calculation of the Dark One, in Moraine's calculation, in this moment, and for the boys, right? He knows who he is. That's what kind of pushes them to start. In the end, like now we're getting the pace. Like Mary brought this up, it does feel like it's a chase scene the entire time. This is certainly part of it. Now, for everyone that's watching, let's take a break from where we're at. This is a live call-in talk show. So you certainly can give us a call. The phone line is open. It's 1-313-825-TALK-WATT or 1-313-825-5968. I think it's at the bottom of the screen over here. So please feel free to give us a call. Let us know how you're feeling about this. I don't want these calls to be just loathing or hating on decisions about Loyal. Please give us a call. Let us know what you think about.
It's your fault, Matt.
I know I did bring him back up, but we had to. So, but I think this is a really good piece that you brought in, Tal, which is that dream sequence. I absolutely believe that's a key part.
Also, in the library is where Moiraine gives the "you can try" speech. We might fail, but we have to try to fight the Dark One.
Yeah, she pitches hard on this. Yeah, in this section, right? There's a lot of kind of stories.
Is that the part, or was it later when she was rebuking Perrin when he said, death follows us, we'd be better off dead, and then she says, we can't fight him dead. Yeah. And he says, well, we can't fight him alive either.
Yeah, and she's saying we have to try anyways.
Okay. Or I thought Matt was there, but I think Matt's still curled up in the back with his precious.
He came downstairs.
Okay. Oh, this was after the healing. Okay.
Yeah, I can't wait till he does come downstairs. I love that part. I'm looking forward to that part because we've kind of gotten like weird, paranoid Matt for a while, and then you kind of Matt comes back and he's a little bit better, right? He's still kind of petting his dagger.
He's sheepish, jokey Matt.
But, yeah, right. Yeah. He's back there. I'm looking forward to that piece. Now, this is the moment where they leave the inn and they make their way to the Waygate, to the ways, and obviously this is where Loyal, who's magically back in her adaptation, that's the power of the Dark One, I'm telling you. So that's how he comes into play here. Now we have our first call of the night. He's been on the show before. We'll bring Lancer back in and see what he has to say.
Hey, Lancer.
Hey, Lancer, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing?
Hey, you guys, what's up?
Someone's a little bit happier, clearly. So, hey, what's going on, Lancer? How do you feel about the sequence of when Rand leaves Camelin, comes back to the Queen's Blessing? They make this whole decision. We have this moment with Matt and the healing and the dreams and moving on our way to the ways. Was there something there that stuck out either in our conversation or just something that was kind of key to you in that moment that you wanted to bring up?
Well, not to throw the big 800-pound elephant in the room of that Loyal's back. Cough, cough. No, no, but honestly, I think this is going to be a great opportunity to see the special effects and the makeup team for this series, because when you were talking about when everybody, all the super kids get back together, you have, seeing Matt through Rand's eyes, you can have one perspective. But then when Moiraine sees Matt for the first time, you can have this really great special effects thing similar to what they did with Theoden in Lord of the Rings in the second one, when he was old and gnarled and everything, when Saruman was possessing him. You can maybe have Moiraine looking at that, since Aes Sedai and the Warders can see the essence of Shadowspawn. So maybe they can see the essence of Mashadar as well, and maybe have black smoke maybe coming off of Matt or something like that. That could be really cool, that only Moiraine and Lan can notice. Or you can see more detail of Perrin's golden eyes for the first time, since everyone's now seeing that, and just you can really play up a lot of great special effects in this scene. And plus, of course, with the waves with Locke and Shen, oh my God, you can have a field day with that.
Yeah, I like that idea that what you're bringing up, which is that Rand was just not seeing something that Moiraine can, and this is a moment that this goes back. I think Mary brought this up. We get Moiraine here, kind of like and Tal brought this up. She hisses and she's really concerned, and getting the view from her eyes of what she's seeing, and then having this moment where she pushes everybody out and heals them. I love that idea. That's a great idea.
Wouldn't it be cool if at some point in time we get Basil Gill's cat to hiss at Matt too? Wouldn't that be great?
Exactly. Basil, yeah, I agree. We should. I think Basil should be a really important character for these last couple shows for sure.
It's Basil. You guys just saying.
Look, Basil. Tame, Tarvalan.
I don't know how to pronounce half the names, and I don't talk good anyway.
We like how you talk, Todd.
Well, Lancer, I appreciate you calling back in, man. We always appreciate your comments. Was there anything parting comment you wanted to make before we let you go tonight?
No. It'd be cool though to see Fal Dara in this, just to see the first time that we can see some major architecture besides Camelin, seeing a different part of the world, because up until this point we've only seen small towns and such, and then the grandeur of White Bridge, and then we'll see the awesomeness of Camelin. It would be nice to see another structure city, I should say like a keep, an actual fortress that is Fal Dara and the north. Sorry,
I really like that. Matt, put a pin in that because I want to come back to it. I have a note.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you just made your Mary's case to skip it. This will come in. Hey, Lancer, thank you so much for calling. We always appreciate it, and have a good night.
You guys rock. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, we have another caller, and I think most of you on the call know her. Let's bring Ebony into the show.
Yeah.
Ebony, welcome to the Dusty Wheel. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We're doing awesome. Hey, it's good to hear your voice. So,
hey, lady.
So hey. What made you jump on the phone tonight?
My kid's asleep.
Good reason.
It's a good reason. So what struck you from the conversation so far, or where we're going with the conversation? What was it from that, or something we didn't mention? What's your favorite part of the sequence, or what do you want to talk about?
Well, I just wanted to chime in because I know I was a big advocate of getting rid of all the dreams.
Yeah.
But the dream with the figurines we should keep.
Thank you.
You've come to do penance against the dream cut that you wanted to do. I see.
Yes.
Why?
Yes, we should keep that one.
Was there something else about that dream other than the parts that Tal brought up about it that struck you as important, that are included in the show? In the show.
Well, I just think it really lets us see how serious it is that he can recognize them in the dream. That it's not that the power that they're dealing with really is evil.
Yeah. And you're right. Maybe if we kept some of these dreams out, some of them that we get would be even that much more impactful.
I think so.
When we experience them.
I think so.
Yeah. No, I like that. What's your thought on Fal Dara? So Mary brought up this idea of taking the ways directly into the Blight, in essence, which is kind of a fun idea. But it does skip a significant part of Fal Dara, and there's Tarwin's Gap, and there's all these other things that are happening there. Do you think that Fal Dara is kind of maybe in this sequence, a skippable thing to get them to the Blight and moving, right? Instead of just another chase stop, right? Because and Mary, feel free to chime in here. Do you feel like, because Fal Dara is kind of a chase stop for another chase, right?
Let's hear what Ebony has to say.
Right. Well, I like Fal Dara because we do get to see Leandrin and see her interacting with them, with his sister, whose name I can't remember right now, the king's sister. But I do think we could probably skip it. I don't like the idea of skipping it, but if we've got to cut something, we can cut that and just have them come out right at the Blight.
Yeah,
I agree with that. The more I think about it, the more I think it can be done. And they can go to Fal Dara after the events in the Eye, the start of the Great Hunt. I don't think it takes away anything, and any key parts that happened before they left could happen after. I don't think we lose anything worth holding on to that we couldn't recover by cutting it at this point.
Well, and there's definitely different ways to get the information, right? So what we get in Fal Dara is that Fane is some sort of genetically modified dark friend.
Yeah.
And that Tarwin's Gap is going to be a big freaking deal. But also we get Lan's entire backstory.
Yeah, there's a lot of
that's
whole
one of the
backstory.
well, we're not into the Blight yet. That's where I want to get.
So
yeah, we haven't. You're like, okay, let's. Should we run through the ways here? Exactly. Well, hey, Ebony, thank you so much for calling in. Really appreciate it. I'm glad your kids were in bed and you had time to watch. And like I said, do a little penance about the dream thing. I think everyone's right about the dream. That dream has to be there, and we'll do some further talking here about how Fal Dara fits in and what we need out of it, what we don't, and how we could we skip it and come back to it? All these other things that are going to come up. Hey, I appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll see you again.
All right.
And we'll have you back on the show sometime for sure.
Okay. All right. Sounds great.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Ebony.
Bye.
Bye, Ebony.
So, the ways. Let's talk this out. Obviously, I'm imagining no one here is suggesting that we somehow get to Fal Dara or the Blight without the ways. Is that
No?
Okay, good. I don't know what kind of crazy ideas you guys have in mind. So the ways, what is it about the ways that you're hoping that the Rafe and his team have captured, both maybe in the script, in the dialogue side of it, and then just in the general kind of setting? What are you hoping to see here from an experience standpoint?
Not the boat scene from Willy Wonka.
And not the mines of Moria.
Interesting. Okay, so but break that down a little bit. So what do you want then? I mean, how do you want it to be different? I mean, the Mines of Moria, that's you could say those are pretty comparable sequences. How do you want them to make it different?
I think this has to be an utter dark, like a weird dark, dank, somewhere where you just really don't want to be. They talk about how the lanterns don't shine very far and don't get away from the group, and they've got to come up with some way to make it really a weird dark, not just dark.
Yeah.
Odd camera angles could be used. Just different sound, whether it be reverbed or echoed or not. A dead sound. There are a lot of atmospherics they could do while there.
This is a really good opportunity for their DOP, the director of photography, to do some interesting things with lighting.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of the cast maybe doing their own lighting in terms of carrying their own lanterns, and that being sort of the light source for the scene. You see a lot of that.
Get some weird, what did somebody say? Some weird MC Escher things going on as they're trying to pass through.
Totally, right? Because the islands
and all in the dark
on top of each other. And I think you could do some really cool things with weird crumbling railings and pitted pathways, and it's evocative.
Yeah, one of the Beth Roberts put the decrepit grandeur. I love that phrase.
Yeah.
The dry decay. Linda, is there something about the ways that would you like to see anything here from a backstory standpoint, or do you just want them to kind of experience the decay as they walk into it? What's important about the ways to you here?
A couple of things. One is that it is an other world, and you have the doorway. There's that mirror effect, which no one's mentioned yet. So I'd love, they could really do some special effects on that, which would be awesome.
How beautiful could that be? The moving, like
and they were beautiful. They were supposed to be beautiful, and they've all been poisoned, more than the Blight in many ways. So it's almost as infertile as like any world that the Dark One would be expected to take over. So you're starting to see a blighted Blight, if you like. So I'm keen to see that. Also the fact that there's the bottomless pits, islands floating. And there used to be plants, trees that fruited. And now, so that too, just Loyal sort of saying like, oh, it used to be like this and now look.
Yeah, I think that grandeur side of it, hopefully maybe they can show us some of that, even though it is decaying, hopefully they can evoke that piece of it. Yeah. And I do hope the atmospheric side that Mary brought up is a reality. I want to hear I want the sound to be different, right? It has to be otherworldly. There has to be something just terrifyingly wrong with this place, for sure. Yeah, it's gonna be a fun sequence for sure.
To your point, Matt, about the backstory, I mean, Loyal being our exposition guy, can just moan and complain about it or explain it to us sadly as he's leading us up the path. Like there's no reason that we don't have to have it if they want to give it to us. Yeah. It could be a nice bit of walk and talk.
It might be interesting if he walks up to one of the stones and you see what in his mind's eye he sees what it would have been like just for a second, and you see a glimpse, but then it returns to kind of the darkness around him. In other words, it might be interesting if they give us a little point of view just to show us what he's seeing and why he's so distraught. Right? There's one thing to talk about it, but it might be fun for them to kind of flip a little bit of what it was before as to what it is now for the viewer to kind of get a feel for it.
It would be interesting if they showed it, the crumbling stonework, the not just dead trees and dankness, but just the absolute barrenness, the desiccated nothingness, and then
the Trollocs,
and then a pile of dead Trollocs, roadkill,
melted into the stone. Come on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And all the
metal. Twitching. How cool would that be?
Yeah, still twitching Trolloc. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Looking at an old rundown house that you can tell was beautiful at one time.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I want the railings and things like that.
Yeah, somebody in the chat said like Pompeii. They can do some interesting things there. Now, obviously, in the midst of doing the ways, they run into a dead end. Right, I think it's one of the bridges has decayed.
Snapped.
Yeah, and he has to take him a different way, and then the black wind comes in, right, and they have to she has to destroy the doorway to get them out of there. The black wind. Do we want to see, because we know Padan Fain is following them?
So I need to jump in.
Yeah, go for it.
This is where one of those pieces where he was tracking the only other epic fantasy we had at the time, like significantly, right? So, I mean, you see this real match to Tolkien in terms of, the dark little hound following you through the dark, dark place, and it's very scary, and the scary thing doesn't seem to be scared of him. And I'm really hoping we can avoid Fain following them, and I just don't like it.
So you don't want to see it. I mean, I like him following them because I like him in the Fal Dara sequence. It's one of my favorites.
Oh, sure, but I don't want the Gandalf
Gollum.
Something's following us scene.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
The other, and I don't particularly care for her cutting the Waygate open, because they talk about how Waygates can't be destroyed, and she destroys it, and that is something that's always bothered me. Well,
okay, so to go back to that, the leaf being gone is a nice bit of business. You're not telling me like that wasn't, it was really exciting.
But she made a big deal when they were in Camelin about talking about how the gates couldn't be destroyed, and
So
then
skip it.
she does it.
Well, it depends on what you consider the gate being destroyed, the doorway into it. But if you talk about the actual portal itself, that's how I take the canon on as far as the book's concerned. Destroying the whole portal.
Linda's the expert. I want to hear what she wants to say.
I guess
Well, I was going to
literal,
say that
maybe.
the gate is the connection and not the actual physical door. But the other thing too is it shows that just because Moraine thinks she knows something doesn't mean that she does actually know it correctly, and we see that over and over and over again. The wrong knowledge, imperfect knowledge, the whole bit. This is one of those examples where through
Also-
desperation she had to get around that. But she had her Angreal with her, which helped. And that's an opportunity to really show that in action again.
Because balefire.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting piece here, which is I do like the piece of this is the dark wind, the black wind coming up at them, and they not feeling like they have a way out. That's going to be right. That's a smash to black, right? They've got to do one of those moments, right? Leave people on a cliffhanger on one of these episodes. But that piece, I think, that's a part I do like about it, Todd. But you're right. They could absolutely skip that part, right? It could just be chasing them, and they could just get out. But it's an interest. I enjoy it from what Linda brought up. Now they get out, right? And this is where Mary's idea comes into play, which is we have this Fal Dara sequence where we do get to know more about Lan. We get to know more about Padan Fain and what he's all about. But it is a lot of exposition, right? It's kind of like sit down, story time, take a break. You've been chased, here's some safety, and now let's tell you what's been going on, that you didn't understand this entire time. So, to Mary's point, how do the rest of you feel about coming out in the Blight at this point?
I think going straight to, and I'm going to butcher the name, Malkier, and because I think they mentioned that there was a gate there. I think that would be pretty cool because then we could still see where Lan came from.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah,
I love that.
Do we miss though some of the emotional impact of them having met these individuals and then going to Tarwin's Gap and Rand's sequence that comes in later? Do we miss any of that, or can they just do you anticipate? I guess Mary, to this question, do you want to still see things happening there, but they don't stop there? In other words, whatever, they're in Camelin and we see a cut scene to Fal Dara and they're prepping for war in essence, and then it comes back to what we're doing, or do you only want to? Are you suggesting we only see Fal Dara post Eye?
I'm suggesting we only see Fal Dara post Eye. I'm still noodling on it to see how it would actually play out, because it does change how Tarwin's Gap, that whole fight scene plays out. If it plays out, they may cut that. Who knows? It's just kind of there, and it's awesome. But the entire point of the book is running to the Eye, and setting up the characters of the Emmons Fielders. So if you're not going to focus on that, if you're going to shift a little, why?
TV wise, Matt, if we don't know people, like if we don't know the characters, there's no value in seeing them, frankly, right? So to sort of cut to Fal Dara and soldiers getting ready for a battle, like we have no invested interest in these people, so I don't think they should waste the time or the money to do sort of a Game of Thrones battle prep scene. Sure. The Tarwin's Gap piece becomes important because it shows that this battle against the Dark One is being fought on all fronts and is more than just the battle that the 5 of them are heading into, or the 7 of them, or however many of them it is. It's affecting nations.
Yeah, and you could definitely, you could short circuit that whole piece, which is you could have them come out and pass by Fal Dara and move on. And, you know, and whatever, they have maybe Ingtar comes out and he has a moment with Lan and he's like, we need you, you know.
They pass them on the road.
Exactly. You could do a short sequence of, you know, and that's where you can kind of get a little bit of insight into how these people feel about Lan. And then you know, you would miss, though, the Padan Fain portion. Now, we certainly could get him on the way back, right? When they come back to Fal Dara, this person was found, he was following you, whatever it is. In other words, I think that learning more about Padan Fain, obviously is a favorite character of mine, so there's an importance to me about that sequence. But I do recognize when I read back through it that it's very much like, everybody take a break. We're going to go learn what happened to Padan Fain. And this guy's been searching for you guys. And see, I told you we were right. You know, he was on your tail, and we learn more about him. And it's kind of like, okay, hold him here. And we're going to go now into the Blight. So I'm where I'm at is, you know, I like the idea of maybe skirting it and moving on, but I do like the idea that was posed of coming out in Malkir. That's kind of cool.
Could we do Fane and Camelin?
Yes.
Before
Like, what's stopping us from doing Fane and Camelin?
How do you? I mean, I guess you'd have to turn him over to like the. I don't know. He's up there, and then he escapes, right? I mean, there's a whole sequence in the Great Hunt that we need him up there. You know, so you'd have to change a lot at this point to not have him there. But I think he could be there when you get back. So
I'm not saying have him not be there, but find out sort of what happened to Fane and the significance of him hunting 3 years ago for these boys.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. There's certainly, and I know some people in the chat are kind of going back and forth on this question of, and to us, what we're asking, and this question goes to everybody in chat, which is, at some point we can't have every scene, right? At some point, if we're not with budgetary time, whatever it is, you know, and does the least amount of damage of absence of a particular scene or sections of scenes or individuals to the overall story? And that's what we're trying to ask ourselves as we go through this. Can we do without this? Can we go around and get some of it? The intent is to not obviously cut everything because we want, you know, do fan service to our own favorites. It's, you know, can this happen in a way that is still kind of streamlined towards what's happening and still recapture some of these things? For example, you know, we talked about not having the Tinker sequence with Perrin and Egwene, but it's not like we're getting rid of the Tinkers or we think they shouldn't be there. It's, what does a first season look like? So in the same kind of question for us, and it doesn't sound like the panel's too set on either, you know, of this question, which is, do we stop? Do we get a little piece of it? Do we forego it together?
To Mary's point, I think no. Like, I'm convinced now. I'm swayed.
Interesting. Okay.
So let me help sway
come out in Malkir, and we'll get the backstory and we'll get the rest. However, there's lots of ways to get exposition in there.
Yeah, if they come out in Malkir, they come out in the Blight, they're still being chased. They're someplace that is not safe. And you know, the entire book started in Emond's Field, where, you know, it's your typical, you know, nice quiet town in the middle of nowhere where, you know, yeah, things are bad, but you know, it's but they go through all Andor, stopping at the different places, and it's there's something building. It's not all out war yet. And I think once they get, you know, they can do the scene at the Eye, they can have all of that, and then what? And then they go to Fal Dara and they see the world keeps moving. That part hasn't changed, but now it's more preparing for war. More things are changing. And then you get into the Great Hunt where, you know, if everything is going to be, you know, the Dark One is coming and war is coming, why are these idiots down in Ilion calling the Great Hunt? Now, that doesn't make any sense. You still have there's a sequence and a progression, and just dropping a battle scene in because it's a battle doesn't make as much sense from a TV point of view.
Okay, so Linda, is there anything that you think we're missing here, you know, from all of the work you've done on the 13th Depository as far as this Fal Dara scenes or this engagement at Fal Dara and Tarwin's Gap and that piece? Do you think we'd be missing out on anything if we came out at Malkir and went right to the Eye?
I mean, one of the things about Fal Dara is seeing Lan. He's spent a lot of his childhood around there. So just seeing the interactions between Lan and Agilmar, etc., or Ingtar, or both. So we had both. But if he could encounter one or the other. But if they go straight to Malkier, that's not going to happen. I mean, because Ingtar's not going to be there. They're over in Tarwin's Gap, which is over in Shinar. So that is a missed opportunity just to have some character development of Lan.
Yeah, and
because without knowing he should be a king, he's just some magical soldier guy.
But do we need to know right that second?
Well, that's just it. We certainly need to know soon. Whether we need to know before or after is the big thing. I guess we don't. Do we need to go there twice? Is it better to have one longer stay?
That's what I would advocate.
Yeah. You might be convincing me here, Marianne. I'm now leaning towards it. I like the idea.
First time for everything.
Okay, so and if when it comes to the Fal Dara sequence, this is a whole section of Fane, and we would lose that piece. Is there anything about that you want to bring up on the call? As we're talking about this right now on the show.
One thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is not a spoiler-free show.
It is not. Spoilers.
You know that Ingtar is a dark friend.
Right.
And we know that Fane has been modified in some way to not only detect the boys, but he seems to have a bit of a dark friend radar later on down the road. So wouldn't he have been able to sense Ingtar?
What are you saying? In other words, we need to see that part?
No, I'm just wondering. It was another Theoryland question.
Yeah.
He probably let Fane in. There is into Fal Dara Keep. Fane is he has a lot of contacts with dark friends, but a lot of his abilities are developed a bit further down the track as Mordeth gets more of a hold of him.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
So nothing happens instantly.
Plausible deniability then. Okay.
Yeah, other than those two kind of sequences, the Fal Dara sequence to me isn't maybe I'm forgetting something there, but let's say it
sets the Borderlands up as Asian and honorable and troubled. That's basically all it does.
Yeah.
It makes the Emmons Fielders feel like country bumpkins. There's a lot going on there. Nynaeve realizes that she's in love with a king, even if he is a hidden monarch. So that's kind of depressing to her. And then they have that scene in the Blight where they each let each other know that they're in love, but each puts up barriers as to why that's not a great idea to actually get together.
Right.
Mashiara.
Yeah.
Well, let's bring. We have a caller. Let's bring. He always drops in, and we appreciate his comments. Let's bring in Nick from Florida. Hey, Nick, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing this week?
Hi, how you guys doing?
Good, man.
Well.
So, what do you? What's come up so far on the call? Where are your agreements? Where are your disagreements?
Well, since you brought it up, I know you're not going to like this, but since you brought it back up, I think you said what does the least damage to the story?
Yeah.
Cutting Fane does almost no damage to the story. Everything he does can be replaced.
No, that's
so
absurd.
I feel they either have to cut him or they have to rewrite his ending.
Because
you can't have his ending happen like it happened in the books.
Look, Nick, don't make me cut you off, man. Okay, so you think Pat Fane, you'd rather cut him than the Fal Dara sequence?
Yeah, I really would, because the Fal Dara sequence with it shows the destructive power of Sidene, and you're talking about when Rand comes out and obliterates the Trolloc army, right? Or is that in the second book?
Are you talking?
No, we hadn't got that far.
We haven't gotten there just yet. Yeah.
I'm a little far ahead.
Yep. Yeah, you're a little bit farther ahead. That's okay. It's not like our callers haven't.
Yeah,
brought
no,
up.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, that scene I think absolutely has to happen because it gives us a small taste of what the Asha men will be doing later.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that
But
scene.
no,
I want to see that scene, but in the end, I don't know that it's required for us to have a stop in Fal Dara because it's such a short stop. It really is. It's like it's sit down, have some dinner, meet, be worried about Pat and Fane, and then it's moving on.
It is a very short stop, but I feel like they could do that scene in just a couple of minutes where you just like see Rand stuff out and then the full army gets completely obliterated. And if they did this a little bit earlier, before this season, before the book one finale, you could before the full reveal that Rand is the dragon, then you could like, what the hell? People can still like, why did the Troll army just blow up out of nowhere? I think it'd be a really cool moment, but I was thinking the Eye of the World needs to be rewritten, like that scene with the Green Man. I think they should keep the Green Man. But I would like type up his powers, like tree based. I would have when he like restrains one of the Forsaken, I would have like roots come up around the Forsaken and like physically. Because in the book, the descriptions, in my opinion, is not that good about what he does. They're like, this all he holds the Forsaken.
So
he reaches out his hand and he holds the Forsaken in place.
It's okay, we're not keeping those Forsaken.
Hold on. We're not even there yet. What are you talking about? Hold on. Okay, so Nick, to Nick's point, I think this is an important scene for us to get to. I think you're totally wrong about the Pat and Fane thing. I think you just did that to troll me, and that's fine. We're keeping Pat and Fane, but no, we're gonna get to the Green Man here shortly, and that's kind of the next sequence. And so you've kicked us off into that piece, which let's jump into that. Hey Nick, thank you very much for calling, man. Always appreciate it. Always appreciate you holding us to the fire a bit when you think that we've made the wrong choice. So hopefully you'll stick around, and hopefully hopefully we'll see you next week, fam. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sorry, watching the comments sometimes while I'm trying to talk to you guys is funny. CG Nefaria said, "If no Fal Dara, when will we get the nudity?" And then he said, "I guess Lan could bathe in the Malkiri Lake and the Blight," which brings us back to the Blight, right?
There's an octopus in that lake, I'm pretty sure.
That thing was awesome. They've got to show that thing when Matt's like, "Did I just see hands at the end of those tentacles?" It's such a great moment. They've got to show that. Oh man, that would be awesome.
All they're missing is Bill the pony.
If they need to have somebody walk up to the lake, and almost attempt to bathe in it before they see that, it's got to happen.
Tell me I'm wrong, you guys.
Jump scares.
So, what do you think about the Blight and what they experience here? Obviously, we do have this scene where they stop and they camp. And then we have the scene between Lan and Nynaeve that we get from Rand's point of view, which I don't think is funny. It's like, it's really weird. It's like, why is Rand telling us about this? But whatever. But this scene, this camping out in the Blight, this goes to Mary's point, right? They get to the Blight, and then they stop. It does give us a focus on Malkir, right? And then the seven, he sees he sees, in essence, what's left over from the kingdom from afar. It's off to the west. Is this sequence important? And as far as Lan and Nynaeve are concerned, Linda, do you like this kind of stuff?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I do think so. I mean, they need to see something as well as the Blight. Like, they need to see the Blight affecting something and have it affect Lan's actual kingdom. Former kingdom or actual kingdom, future kingdom is good because Lan too is and future king, just like Rand is. So it's nice to get to keep that parallel going. Yeah, I'd actually would like to see that happen. We also see a ward being set up, and we see Egwene almost being able to see that herself. So and Moraine can do some testing or teaching of Egwene while she does all that.
Do you think we need more of this Nynaeve and Lan, or do you like that it kind of, at least for me reading it, it doesn't, not that it comes out of nowhere. That's not what I'm saying. It's just that we don't get a lot of screen time for it. Do you want them to have built this up more, or do you like that this kind of that Rand in essence is like, whoa, what's this?
Yeah, I mean, Nynaeve and Lan are very reluctant. They don't think that it's a great idea. They've each, yeah, and I mean, there's that whole, okay, the end of the world is coming, do we have a romance or not? It's, do we have time for romance? So there's that aspect too.
They're both very proud and they're both very stubborn.
Yeah, that's right.
And I feel like if it doesn't go this way, if it goes too fast, then it almost pushes her away from Tar Valon instead of to Tar Valon.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. That's a good piece. Yeah, I like that. The ward, setting up the ward, I do like that aspect. It kind of gives us a feel. It's a little bit Harry, the scene could be a little bit Harry Potterish, where they walk through the ward in essence, and, you can't see what's outside of it. That's what in my head. That's absolutely what I see when Rand's talking about like, where'd everybody go? And then Lan kind of makes fun of him as he's walking through it. He's like, shepherd or something. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what he says, but I do like that part, which is I do like the whole stopping and taking a moment before this final sequence. And so to me, this is kind of this is the chase scene, and then they get a little tiny break, but they're getting a break in the midst of the Blight, which is not
so it's
much.
Not really a break.
It's not a break. Yeah, I mean, if anything, it emphasizes, to Linda's point, it shows you the damage that has happened in the scope of less than 50 years, and just the image of the 7 decaying towers against the sunset on that hill has been so evocative for me. I've seen it in my mind's eye for more than 20 years, and if I don't get it, I might be sad.
Okay, so before we wake them up and we run them to this final Green Man sequence, let's bring in Mike from Wisconsin. Hey, Mike, welcome to the Dusty Wheel tonight. How you doing?
Pretty good.
Hey, thanks for calling in. Where do you agree or disagree with us?
I have to respectfully disagree with everybody talking about cutting anything.
Okay. I hear you.
especially out of anything out of the first few books. And to me, the reason why is, these books are largely descriptive. I bet you if you put it on like a Word document and you just cut up all the description, you'd lose a huge percentage of the books. So you'd greatly decrease the actual amount of playtime there would be, because all the description is, going to be covered by cinematography and special effects, things like that. The other part of it is I've noticed reading through the books a few times, Robert Jordan likes to drop in these little hints and things like that, and foreshadowings of things that will come farther down in the book, like Min's viewings in Barrelon. They a lot of them don't make sense until 2-3 books later. If you start cutting out specific scenes from the book, I feel like you're gonna miss a lot of what actually happens and those little subtle hints.
Yeah, that's something that we kind of struggled with over these last, I think this is our part 6 of this live adaptation, which is, can you, or does it take away from that experience, the reading experience of the, the foreshadowings and such, to lose kind of some exposition and some of these scenes in such a way, that, but can it kind of be regained in season 2 and season 3? Does that make sense? In other words, if you're forced to make a cut, and so that's what I would ask you. Let me reflect back on it.
Right.
If you're forced to make a cut, if let's say they told Rafe, you have 5 episodes, and as much as you take all the descriptions out, let's say he's just like, I can't develop the characters I want to develop. So what ends up on the cutting floor? And that's really kind of, that's our question. So if you had, so I want to throw a question back your way. The entire first book, if you were forced to cut a sequence, particular maybe whatever it is, scene, character, is there somebody you could come and do that to? Or is it more kind of just viscerally like you just don't want to ever have to cut these people ever from a story?
I don't know if I would cut really anything. You might have to change a few things, mannerisms, things like that, but actually cutting anything, I feel like if you cut too much, then you're going to end up with 2 episodes for one book.
Yeah, and maybe that's what we'll find. That's a good question. That's the part we don't really know, which is what you're bringing up. Maybe we don't have to, right? Like maybe we got 8 episodes for this first season or 10 episodes, whatever, and they're able to fit in everything, how they frame the scenes, how they frame the people. We know they're going to bring in Logain into the story in a bigger role. How do you feel about that side of this? Now, you don't want to cut anything. How do you feel about Rafe adding stuff to it?
I feel like if you're going to include Logain, it's just going to be a quick glance. It's not going to be anything extensive. Maybe I saw in the comments somebody mentioned maybe Min catching up in Camelin. Maybe seeing a viewing of Logain in Camelin and just mentioning it to Moraine or something like that.
Yeah.
Changes like that, but
not
actually. I feel like taking anything out you'd lose kind of the magic of this series.
Yeah, I know. I absolutely, and that's the fun and daunting part about doing this with fans, which is, we've all lived this, and loved this thing for so long that it was a challenge to us, which I've been enjoying, which is what could we accept, So hey, by the way, I appreciate you calling in. I appreciate you sharing that with us, and because that sentiment is something that I think most fans kind of feel deep down, which is, I don't want to have to cut anything necessarily, but when it comes to it, I think they're going to, and that's my brain's trying to prep for that moment, if that makes sense.
Right.
Hey,
I could see shortening maybe some areas, like everybody was saying. People kept saying cut the Fal Dara, just cutting it out, but I feel like you could shorten it and still build upon the character of Pad and Fane.
Okay. Yeah, so you would, and you're bringing up kind of your line here, which is maybe you could shorten some of these sequences up, which I think is maybe Rafe's decision. Hey, thank you again for calling in. Hopefully you'll kind of continue watching us and, share this with us. We're going to keep on doing this through the Great Hunt. We're going to have a lot of fun with it, even though we're going to skip other segments other weeks. But I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you giving us a call, Mike. Have a good night.
Yeah, it's been fun. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I hope everybody holds on to this. Don't cut anything when we get to Crossroads of Twilight.
Look, the Great Hunt is going to be so hard for me. I
I'm with you there.
I can't even. So, our last caller of the night, we got to bring him in. He's a first-time caller from the UK. His name is Josh. Let's pull him in. Hey, Josh from the UK. Welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
Doing great. So, what have you been watching? What is it you want to see? Keep, cut. What's on your mind tonight?
I think I agree with most of what's been said. Actually, I think you can probably get rid of most of the Fal Dara stuff, and I guess I kind of feel like the final kind of montage that the whole, at the eye, can probably be rewritten somewhat. I think Robert Jordan didn't really necessarily anticipate how that whole kind of process would fit in with the rest of the series. So, especially when you've got Sidene and you've got the different coloured kind of strands that run off from Rand and the Forsaken, I feel like that whole thing could maybe be reworked a bit. I guess that's my thoughts really.
Yeah, this is a good question. We're coming up to the eye here, and how does the panel feel about that kind of, let's just jump to it since Josh brought this up. What that final sequence with when Rand is there and he sees that the chords going off and his battles with the Forsaken. Do you agree here? We need to kind of reconfigure this piece.
See, we have an advantage because we know how much you love all the hoses and stuff coming off of everybody, and I'm good without seeing any of that.
Yeah, what everyone doesn't know
I
is
just think
this
that
is a favorite
Sidene
part
is
of
so
mine.
internalized.
Yeah. No, you're right. This is a favorite part. That
But when they embrace the source, it's...
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, no. When they embrace the source, it's a very internal process. I feel like it's kind of, it's very much, assume the void, and then, you've got this kind of glimmering light. Whereas this is very externalized, I would say. Like, you're looking at something that's ultimately very external and very visible. Whereas the whole kind of premise behind Sidene is that, other men can't see other men channeling, and I feel like that kind of removes all of that, essentially.
Yeah, it's interesting. This piece, and we'll probably save a lot of this overall kind of discussion of the Green Man. We'll have to do a final episode of the Eye of the World here. But yeah, this is a good question. This is a piece that I like of the books because I like the metaphysics about how all these connections pertain to the Dark One or don't, and the true power and all this whatever. And this is a favorite part of mine. But I think you're right that this could be rewritten to make more sense to the viewer of what's happening here, and maybe we have fewer conflicts at this final piece. I've never been a fan of how many times Ishamael appears to die. I'll be honest. So if they modify how this ends, I'm not going to be too sad. But I do have a theory, and I think we're running to the end of the show. I can't really sell it here at the end.
Don't get into it.
So it'll be next week. I have this awesome theory that finally came to me about the importance of the Pool of Sidene and how it's, in essence, how it's related to the Dark One and everything. So that'll be next week. I'll include that. I guess not next week, in a couple weeks. But Josh, if before we have you go, tell us, if you could cut a character from the whole Eye of the World, a main character, who would it be?
Oh God, this is so difficult.
Welcome to our world.
I don't want to cut anyone. I mean, I feel like you could maybe get away with cutting Loyal, I guess, if you're going to be really, if you are like, of all people.
One of us.
You're on the record now. It's on the internet forever.
Yeah.
You just recommended cutting Loyal.
Yeah.
See, and people
He said maybe.
Well, he hedged.
Not that I'm
hedged.
saying I want to, but if you are going to cut someone, then you may as well have Moraine do all the exposition at that point.
See, this is what people end up hating us for, is because we go maybe cut him and it's over. Hey, Josh, thank you so much for staying up and for watching and for calling. It's so awesome to have new callers, especially.
No, I've really enjoyed the show. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Hey, man, appreciate it. Hopefully you'll call back. Hopefully you'll keep on watching. And like I said, we're doing some shows on Sunday that are a little bit earlier, so coming up. So hopefully it won't be as bad for you to kind of stay and watch.
Won't be 3 a.m. this time.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, man, totally appreciate it. Have a good one.
Good night.
Good night. Okay, so we're coming to the end. Tal, I know you have to leave. If you have to jump out,
it's late.
Understand. I know it's late for you. I get it. So we made it to the Blight, which is what I said. I did say to the end of the Eye of the World. Technically, we got there. For everyone that's watching, we got to the end. We just didn't, finish it. So we are at this moment. We're getting to the Green Man, and I think we're gonna have to wait to finish. Or are we? I think we're going to have to wait to finish this, Todd. You're going to have to hold on to those notes. By the way, I appreciate everyone in the comments. It's been fun watching your comments. And if you watch the video, there are moments where I'm just reading the thing and kind of laughing as I'm listening. I don't know how good this is that I can see all the comments. But ask yourself this question. The next time we come back with this segment, it's going to actually be a couple weeks. Do we keep or cut the Green Man? How do we handle the end of the Eye of the World? I think that's a great question. And Linda, I just want to say to you, thank you so much for being here with us. We didn't get to ask you any amazing questions about everything you know about the Wheel of Time.
I did.
Well, yeah, you got to.
Well, that means you have to come back, Linda. You have to join us again.
I should join you another time if you want me back. Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm happy to come again.
Well,
I wish you would.
I want to pick your brain.
We're speaking for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to pick your brain about. I read an article on the 13th Depository recently about the Masons and the Wheel of Time.
Okay.
That was an awesome article. So anyway,
thanks.
I want to have you back just to even just pick your brain about all these type of topics. If you don't know Linda's site, somehow you're being a Wheel of Time fan and you don't know the 13th Depository, go look it up now, and you'll lose yourself for another year with just content.
Oh yeah, it's a rabbit hole.
Wow.
It's an amazing
thanks
rabbit
very
hole.
much, all. It's been lovely being along and contributing.
We've loved having you here. And for those of you that are still watching, if you're not a subscriber, please hit the subscribe button. It's always awesome to have you call in. We'll continue to do these, but seriously, come back on Sunday, support the licensees that, when they come on, call them, whatever, leave some comments and chat for them. They really have appreciated, the support of fans, and I'm sure would love to hear you. So be back here. You'll see it. It's 4 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. We'll advertise it. Just go follow us on social media. We love having you guys here. Thank you for all the callers that called in. To my panelists, you're awesome. Thanks for being with us yet again for part 6 of this live adaptation. And next Wednesday, remember, it's a Halloween special all about the Forsaken. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see you guys in the Dusty Wheel next week.
Bye.
Smash to black, right?